In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how you can get ChatGPT to produce an appropriate lesson plan for your classes. To start with, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to recommend a suitable prompt that I can use to ask it to generate a lesson plan. And you can see that down here. It says, recommend a suitable prompt that will ask you to produce a lesson plan. And I'll now click on this arrow and let's see what ChatGPT produces for us. And you can see it's working now. And let's have a read of what it says. Create a lesson plan for teaching basic algebraic equations to a group of 7th grade students who are new to the subject. Your lesson plan should include learning objectives, teaching strategies, assessment methods, and any necessary materials or resources. So that's what it's recommended we use. Now, of course, here you can see it's saying basic algebraic equations. So you might want to change, or you will want to change that for a topic of your choosing. And here it's saying a group of 7th grade students. Now that's how students are classified in the USA. In the UK, this would be key stage. Now my preference is to use the age of the students or the age of the pupils. I would put something like for 11-year-olds, for 16-year-olds, because that way I haven't got to remember what key stage 4 means, because I keep on forgetting. So, but you take your choice when you actually decide to use an appropriate prompt. So I would take the prompt recommended by ChatGPT and I would alter it to something I prefer, which is this here. Create a lesson plan for teaching, and then I put the topic here, to a group of, and then I put the age group here. The lesson plan should include learning objectives, teaching strategies, assessment methods, and any necessary materials or resources. I would also add the following. The duration of the class is, and I'd put the duration here, 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever it is, and I would go on to say, please estimate appropriate times for all the class activities. So the prompt I would use is shown here. Let's have a go at doing it for the teaching of an aspect of the Python programming language. The prompt I would use is shown here, and I've tweaked it slightly to make it read a little bit better, and I've broke it up into another sentence. But let's read what I've put. Create a lesson plan that shows how a Python program can greet a user. It is for a group of 15 to 16-year-olds. The lesson plan should include learning objectives, teaching strategies, assessment methods, and any necessary materials or resources. The duration of the class is 1 hour. Please estimate appropriate times for all the class activities. Now you can see I've entered the prompt here, and now ChatGPT will start to produce the lesson plan for me. Please note I've speeded up this small section of the video a little. I've scrolled to the top, and what I can do, I can click in this region here, right click on the mouse, and I can come here and ask it to read it aloud. Of course, this isn't necessary, but I find it useful because it encourages a conversational style with ChatGPT, and it enables me to spot what I actually don't want to appear in the final lesson plan after I've tweaked it.
Sure, here is a lesson plan for teaching how to create a Python program that greets a user. Title of lesson: Creating a Python program to greet the user. Learning objectives.
Now it'll carry on reading the response until the very end, as I'm showing coming up now.
Estimated time. Introduction, 5 minutes. Demonstration, 10 minutes. Hands-on practice, 5 minutes. Total, 60 minutes.
For ease of reference during the video, I've copied it from ChatGPT and put it into Word. And here you can see it starts off with the title of lesson, creating a Python program to greet the user. It then gives me learning objectives. It's a question of, do I accept those as they are written? We then look at the material and resources. We have a look to see if that is suitable. Now, I would most probably look at this and look to my class setup and say, well, what do I have here? Well, I don't have Visual Studio. So what I would do, I would delete that and Sublime Text. And in fact, I might need to add the editor that I use in here, but you get the drift. I'm altering it now to match my requirements. Carrying on, you come to the teaching strategies, and you can see there are various times set here. Now, this is where you bring your experience as a teacher to see if these time slots are useful. What ChatGPT has done is put times there, but you, as a teacher who's done this before, delivered lessons like this, would maybe want to tweak these as well. I know I certainly would want to tweak some of them, but again, you get the drift. Carrying on, it then comes to this: class activities, introduction 5 minutes, demonstration 10 minutes, and you can carry on, and you can see that the hands-on practical 30 minutes. And here it says divide the class into groups of 2 or 3 students, have them work together to create a Python program that greets the user by name. Assist and provide feedback as needed. Now, I wouldn't do that, so I think I would delete that, and I would just have them working individually. And of course, you would go through this, as I say, bringing your experience to bear on the lesson plan. But if you consider the lesson plan, I think there's something missing. And what's missing is examples of code. I would want in my lesson plan the code that I'm going to be referring to. So under these circumstances, I would now go back to the chat and ask it to include code examples that support the lesson. I would have been better in the first instance coming up with a better prompt, but nothing's lost, because you have to appreciate you're having a conversation here with ChatGPT. So adding another question, it'll give you a response. So let's go back and ask it to give me some examples of code that I can use for this lesson. So you can see here I've put, please give me examples of code to support this lesson plan. Then I'll click here and let's see what is produced. And you can see it's producing a number of examples that I could incorporate into my lesson plan. I also think that the lesson plan is missing some exercises for the students. So here you can see I've said, give me some exercises for the students. And let's click here and see what it does. Off it goes, producing some exercises for the students to do. It's now a question of deciding which of these exercises do you think would be useful for the students to complete. I'll just scroll up a moment and have a look at this first one. It says create a program that greets the user and asks for their age, and then prints out a message based on their age using an if-then-else statement. For example, you're still a minor if they're under 18, or welcome to adulthood if they are 18 or older. Now, that exercise is something I would most probably not use for this lesson, but I might put it at the end as an additional exercise that would take me on to the next lesson, where I could possibly introduce the use of a selection construct, but I certainly wouldn't have that as the main exercise. If you go to the next one, it says create a program that asks the user for their first and last name and then prints out a personalized greeting using their full name. For example, hi John Smith, welcome to our program. Now, that's one I think I would use within the lesson plan, and it's one I would give the students to complete during the lesson. Of course, it is a reasonable question to ask, well, what have I gained here? I've got this machine to actually give me a lesson plan. Couldn't I have done that through my teaching experience to date? Well, the answer is clearly yes. But from my perspective, it's productivity. I mean, the thing can type a lot faster than me to start with. So if I come up with a clear prompt, it's going to do a lot of the spade work for me. You then have a look at what it's produced, and you can see for the examples I've done here, I will be copying and pasting into Word until I have a final lesson plan. Now, we could all debate the usefulness or otherwise of lesson plans, but we all know that we have to produce them now and then, and we know who we have to produce them for. I'll say no more than that because I don't want to be too cynical about lesson plans, but nevertheless, it's very useful to be able to know how to do it because it will make you more productive. The truth of the matter is, I think what I would do, having had this conversation with ChatGPT, I would formulate another prompt that asks for everything that's been given here by the lots of individual prompts I've given it. Simply because what I would end up with would be one long response that included the example programs and included the exercises, because it would simply be easier to copy that lot, paste it into Word, and then edit it. I've decided to start a new chat, and here you can see I've combined all of the prompts that I've used to date to get ChatGPT to produce me a lesson plan. And if I read it, it says create a lesson plan for 15 to 16-year-olds that shows how a Python program can greet a user. Give examples of programs that use the F-string and concatenation. The lesson plan should include learning objectives, teaching strategies, assessment methods, and any necessary materials or resources. The duration of the class is 1 hour. Estimate appropriate times for all class activities. Include exercises that can be given to the students. I'd like to draw your attention to this sentence. Give examples of programs that use the F-string and concatenation. I didn't have that in mind when I asked it to produce me a lesson plan, but during the conversation it pointed out programs that used both the F-string and concatenation, so I've decided to use it in here, and that came about due to the conversation I was having with ChatGPT. So I'll now click on this arrow and let's see what ChatGPT generates. Well, you can see it's produced an appropriate lesson plan, but of course it's missed out the code that I asked it to produce, examples of code. So I'm now going to say, where's the examples of the code? It's given me the exercises I wanted, but no illustrations of code that I might want to use in the lesson. So I've simply typed in here, where are the code examples, ? I'll hit the arrow there and let's see what it produces. And you can see it's now giving me examples of code that I can use within the lessons. So there we have it. I would now copy and paste this into Word and tweak what it's produced for me. I produced this video in response to a request from a subscriber to the channel. I would not recommend that you pause the videos at particular points to look at the prompts that I typed in. I would simply open ChatGPT and have a go at producing your own prompts and see what you get back from it with respect to producing lesson plans. Your initial prompt might not give you exactly what you want, but you've seen you can ask it another question and it'll then respond appropriately. There is no doubt in my mind that when you have to produce a lesson plan for a topic, this is more productive than starting out yourself from scratch. It certainly produces a good starting point where you can apply your experience to tweaking the lesson plan. Please consider subscribing to the channel and click the bell to ensure you get an update every time I upload a video. Maybe you would like to consider supporting the development of these free videos via Patreon. In addition, why not follow me on Twitter and also check out the supporting website.